Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, double line to the apostles of GMS. This is Noah Allah coming at you with the video. And in this video, I want to be focusing on the book of Philippians, the 2nd chapter and the 12th verse. Okay? Yeah, Philippians 2 and 12. Alright? When the apostle Paul is speaking about obeying not just in his presence but in his absence. So let's get into that. Philippians chapter 2 verse 12. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. See that right there? Sorry. Excuse me. See that right there? He says, in my presence only, but now much more in my absence. Because you have people that would obey when they're in the presence of someone, but they may not obey when they're in the absence of that person. So the Apostle Paul is stressing to them, you have to obey. Whereas he says, ye have always obeyed. So he's not saying that they haven't obeyed. He's just further indicating that, yeah, you've always obeyed, but just as you have obeyed in my presence, do it even more in my absence. Okay? Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So that's what the Apostle Paul is saying. Look at that word. See if you can look at that word fear and trembling. See if we can get an understanding right there. Let's see. Well, phobos, phobia is fear. I want to look at that word trembling. Like phobia, like fear or phobia.
Strong's G 5156. Tramas.
Tramas. Just says trembling. A trembling or quaking with fear. With fear and trembling used to describe the anxiety of one who distrusts his ability completely to meet all requirements, but religiously does his utmost to fulfill his duty. Which we're not dealing with religion, we're dealing with, spirituality. But that's a good definition right there. Used to describe the anxiety of one who distrusts his ability completely to meet all requirements. So we know that we can't meet all of the requirements 100%, and the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, knows that as well. That's why we're under grace. That's why we have mercy. But to the utmost, we do it as if we can to fulfill our duty. So we do what we can do to the best of our ability. Now look at that word trembling. Fear. Maybe it has a deeper meaning. Since trembling had a good meaning, this man is saying a good one too.
Strong's G 5401. Phobos.
Phobos. Okay. Doesn't really say much here. Okay. It says of God or of the Most High as a controlling motive of the life in matters spiritual or moral, not a mere fear of his power and righteous retribution, but a wholesome dread of displeasing him. See that? That's the fear. It's not just fear in the Most High's power and his righteous retribution. It's a fear of displeasing him, a wholesome dread of displeasing him, a fear which banishes the terror that shrinks from his presence. So that's right there. A wholesome dread of displeasing him. Okay? That's the fear that we ought to have. A wholesome fear of displeasing him. Let's go back. Now this is the book of Philippians 1 and 3. I thank my power upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you all, making requests with joy. For your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now, be confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it unto the day of Yahushua. Even as it is meet for me to think this of you all, because I have you in my heart, insomuch as both in my bonds. Because remember, at this time, the Apostle Paul was in prison. That's the reason why he said, not in my presence, that they obey. They've always obeyed, not in his presence only, but much more in his absence. And as much as both in my bonds and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel, ye are all partakers of my grace. For the Most High is my record how greatly I long after you all in the bowels of Yahushua. In this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment, that ye may approve things that are excellent, that ye may be sincere and without offense till the day of Yahushua, being filled with the fruits of righteousness which are by Yahushua, unto the glory and praise of the Most High. I could have went deeper into that, but that's not really what the show is about. I might do another lesson on that. So let's continue. This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 23, verse 19. Such a man only feareth the eyes of men. I gotta go back. Okay. Sirach 23, that was verse 19, so I'm going to start. I went to the previous chapter. Okay. Sirach 23 and 8. What's off 18? Sirach 23 and 18. A man that breaketh wedlock, saying thus in his heart, who seeth me? I am compassed about with darkness, the walls cover me. So he's saying, oh look, if a man breaketh wedlock, he's saying, who seeth me? He's saying this in his heart, meaning in his mind. I'm compassed about in darkness. I'm in the dark. No one can see me. The walls cover me. The walls are covering me. No one can see through these walls and see what I'm doing. And nobody seeth me. What need I to fear? The Most High will not remember my sins. This is what this person is saying, because they aren't being seen by man. Such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahshua, are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So the sun's light is bright. The sun's light is very bright. It can cover a vast area. But it's saying the eyes of the Lord, meaning the angels, are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So the angels can see places where even the brightest of the sunlight could never reach. See, the sunlight can't come into your house if the windows is blocked, if you're blocking your windows. But the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. In other words, the sun's light can only reach limited areas. But the angels of the Lord, they can go anywhere. They can see everything. So you may be able to hide from man, but you can't hide from Yahweh Shem Yahshua, because he always got his angels watching. Beholding all the ways of men and considering the most secret parts. And that's the point that that was the point. So going back to when the Apostle Paul said what he said in Philippians, the 2nd chapter, in the 12th verse, what's being said there is, they've always obeyed, but not in his presence only, but much more even in his absence. In other words, you got to always obey, not just in the presence of a righteous man, but in the absence of a righteous man. Because Yahweh Shem Yahshua is always watching. Though that man may not be able to see you, don't mean Yahweh Shem Yahshua doesn't. This is Matthew 10 and 5. These 12 Yahushua sent forth, talking about the 12 disciples, and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any of the city, into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. What was the point in verse 5? When it said, these 12 Yahushua sent forth. He sent them forth to do these things. And many more things. Many more things with that, but that's when you read on to the chapter. But I wanted to mainly deal with those 3 verses. Matthew 10, 5 and 6. And 7. Okay? He sent them forth because remember you had a time when you had someone's child that they basically what happened was the disciples was trying to cast out an evil spirit, but they couldn't do it because they lacked faith. Then Yahushua came and he did it. But that goes to show you that Yahushua has sent the disciples forth to go perform certain deeds. But though they couldn't cast out the demon, though they couldn't do it because they didn't have the faith to do so, guess what? They still did, to the best of their ability, the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Because in verse 8 it says, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. So Yahushua is going into these different, had gave them certain orders to go out and do. So they obeyed not just in his presence, but also in his absence. This is Colossians 4 and 7. This is the Apostle Paul. All my state shall Tychicus declare unto you, who is a beloved brother and a faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord, whom I have sent unto you for the same purpose, that he might know your estate and comfort your hearts, with Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, who is one of you, They shall make known unto you all things which are done here. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, saluteth you, and Marcus, sister's son, to Barnabas, touching whom ye receive commandments, if he come unto you, receive him. And Yahushua, who is called Justus, who are of the circumcision, that's not talking about the Messiah. These only are my fellow workers unto the kingdom of the Most High, which have been a comfort unto me. Epaphras, who is one of you, a servant of Yahushua, saluteth you, always laboring fervently for you in prayers, that ye may stand perfect and complete in all the will of the Most High. For I bear him record that he hath a great zeal for you, and them that are in Laodicea, and them in Hierapolis. Luke, the beloved physician, and Demas greet you. Salute the brethren which are in Laodicea and Nymphas, and the church which is in his house. And when this epistle is read among you, cause that it be read also in the church of the Laodiceans, and that ye likewise read the epistle from Laodicea. And say to Archippus, take heed to the ministry which thou hast received in the Lord, that thou fulfill it. The salvation by the hand of me, the salutation by the hand of me, Paul. Remember my bonds. Grace be unto you. So let it be, or amen, which means to sing. So let it be. I just wanted to read that to give you an example of all of the people that were not in Paul's presence, but were still obeying in his absence. So they obeyed not only in his presence, but also in his absence. So with that, I want to close. Say all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahshua, double honor to the Apostle GMS. I hope you brother learned something. Shalom.